Sister Nancy Braceland began her ministry in Boston's North End.
It was more than teaching for me because it was an introduction for me to the immigrant reality. It was wonderful, welcoming. At that point, it was primarily Italian, and so there were families moving in.
After years of welcoming immigrants in Boston, Sister Nancy decided it was time to help beyond the borders of the United States.
I think my experience in Peru was invaluable because I realized what it meant to be in everyday life where you don't speak the language. So I was able to go to language school, which was helpful. But I think it was more than just the language school. It was the interaction with the people that made the difference.
As part of the founding team at Casserly House in Roslindale, Sister Nancy's commitment towards the improvement of the lives of immigrants has truly encapsulated God's inclusive love.
First of all, we had to find out what the neighbors needed, what were some of the most immediate needs. But the two biggest needs were, one, it was a dropout neighborhood. So at that point, we opted for 2nd to 5th grade. So we have been working with them for 17 years now. The immigrant reality continues. They were mostly people that needed help with their documents, people that wanted to bring family together.
When she first felt impelled to answer God's call, Sister Zita Flemming dedicated her time teaching at Regis College. Sister Zita sought to empower young women with whom she interacted.
A wonderful ministry with young women who were filled with dreams. And it was my responsibility to journey with them. They were dreaming about making the world a better place. What could they do? What could they be? And their dreams were fulfilled. They have made a great difference. They have impacted the world in many ways.
Following her work as a teacher and mentor for young women, Sister Zita responded to the needs of the time and began to help a new marginalized group of people.
The AIDS epidemic hit Boston in 1986, just after I had left Regis. My heart was broken by the way people who were afflicted with AIDS were being treated, were abandoned by their families, abandoned by the church, abandoned by the medical community. So we, Catholic Charities, the church, and I as Director of AIDS Ministry, had to begin to develop programs where they felt the love of God's embrace. They needed to feel the presence of compassion, the presence of healing, the presence of love, and the presence of touch.
Sister Zita continues to feel a passion for people and has found her way to connect neighbor with neighbor and neighbor with God.
I was given a gift of an iPad, and it was the beginning of something very wonderful. I started experimenting and making posts online and receiving posts from former students. And then I shared prayer. And I was amazed at the responses of so many of them who in turn shared prayer, and we developed into a little prayer group. And then it grew even more. It's all-inclusive, and it's wonderful. It has been a grace and a blessing.
For more than 25 years, Sister Marilyn McGoldrick answered God's call through her work at Font Bon Academy, where she guided young women.
After I finished my ministry at Font Bon Academy, I had a wonderful ministry with our associates. Then I had the privilege of being in leadership with the congregation, and now I work as Director of Mission Integration at St. Joseph Prep. So I'm back in school. One of the ministries that we sponsor is that of the Women's Table. We help them, particularly through this writer's workshop, that they have to discover that inside they have this voice, but then how to express it. We also have the Multicultural Circle, which brings together women from all different countries so that they can begin to discover not so much how are they different, but what do they have in common.
In addition to her educational work, Sister Marilyn has focused her energy on bringing attention to and eradicating human trafficking.
I speak to civic groups, religious groups, students, adults, anybody, any chance I get to try to raise awareness, because I've discovered that even though I think so many people know about human trafficking, they don't. There are probably 27 million people who are trafficked across the world. But it's not just in developing countries. Human trafficking is happening right here, right now.
Through their selflessness and tireless community efforts, Sisters Nancy, Zita, Marilyn, and others like them have helped transform the Boston community and far beyond, connecting neighbor with neighbor and neighbor with God.
I think I like to think of us as good neighbors, because part of it is to help people find their voice. When we choose to be bigger than ourselves, when we choose to know that maybe everybody doesn't have everything that we have, but if we choose to move into that uncomfortable zone together, we can make a difference.
I took a group of students to Bethany Healthcare Center. After they visited with the sisters, they kept saying to me, "Oh, the sisters did all of this." And I said, "Yes." And I said, "Now what's going to happen? And who is responsible for carrying this out now?" And one of the boys said to me, "Don't worry, sister. I will carry out your mission." And so at that moment, I began to know inside of me that maybe, just maybe, if we all do this together, this is how the inclusive love of God is going to impel all of us.
One of my favorite authors is Mary Oliver. And what she says is, if you want to make something beautiful, perhaps it's because there is a piece of God in you. I would like everyone who is here tonight to know that there is a piece of God in you.